Now, we've all definitely heard of JSON before, but what is it and how do you use it? Now, let's say I want to store a group of people's names into a file, but I don't want to spin up a database and I don't want to just store it in a text file because that would be hard to parse. Well, JSON's got you covered. But what exactly is JSON? Well, JSON's actually pretty simple. You initialize JSON with the curly braces, simple curly braces, and then you have your variable name, and then the value of your variable. Now, this is an extremely important format and it will never change. Curly braces, variable, colon, variable value, comma. Don't put a comma at the last one, it won't work. So let's just check what's going on here. We have a name, so we store John in the name variable. Now John is a string, which means JSON can store strings. Age, save this 30. No, no quotes. So if you don't add any quotes, it's either an int, or if you add a decimal point, it could also be a float. Int is normal number, no decimal points. Float is number with decimal points. String, and then it could also be a boolean. Also, no quotation marks, as you can see. But how would we use this? Well, Python has a built-in library function which you import using import JSON, and JavaScript has this built into the language where you can add JSON and stringify the JSON if you want to print it, because as default, JavaScript saves JSON as variables, which is pretty cool. So now I'm just going to put in the same string, just in one line this time. Nothing changed except I removed the new lines, so don't worry about it too much. Then we parse the JSON using the json.load s. You could also use json.load, which does fail, but there are specific use cases. In this use case, it does fail. The S stands for string. So if you have a variable data defined as a string, then you use load s. But if you have the data defined in a file and you read from the file, then you just use load. And then we can access the data at the variable. So remember the quotations or single quotes? And there we go. Name and age. And you could just store this in a file somewhere as text, and you could parse the JSON, you could add on to the JSON using the default JSON functions, which is pretty cool. Now, just for reference, I'm going to be going over everything you need to know. Text, you already know. Int, you already know. Float, you already know. Booleans, already know. Null, which just says there isn't a value. And then there is an array. So here I have an array. Now let's just say I take that and I make a new variable called skills equal to data skills, and 1. There we go. So we take in a, so this turns into an array. So because it is defined using square braces, it turns the data into an array. So you can access the elements of an array. Remember, in programming languages, arrays are always initialized at point 0. So point 0 would be Python, point 1 would be JavaScript, and point 3 would be SQL. Now, an array, as said before, just a square brace, and then you save the data. And then preferences, that is preferences, and then theme. So theme is a variable under preferences. So I think how you would do that is uh oh yeah, of course there isn't preferences defined. My bad. Just give me a second. Um then we do, there we go. So in the case of two two variables under each other, you use the you just use an extra function inside of the square braces. Log in history is a list of um different objects. So it's an array that stores the value date and IP as the same object. So you can iterate through the list to get the IP. So it would be under history, 0 date. So if you use login history, you would use, and then you'd print this specific date. If you change this number to 1, then it changes the array to the second position, and then it would print this date IP. And so you see, JSON is actually quite easy, especially in a language like JavaScript, which it was built for, as in the name, JavaScript Object Notation. And again, thank you for watching, and bye bye.